Hi everybody, Tayson, Rockefeller, Teton Valley Realty. I'm here on West 5750 South in Victor, Idaho at the listing. I'll call it approximately 3600 West 5750 South, courtesy West Group Real Estate. I'm on this road right here. I'm just in front of the Teton River. In fact, you can see the bridge up in the distance for the river. This section of the river is a little bit narrower. It gets wider as we go downstream from here. But that being said, my intention today is to walk along an easement through this property to the corner of this one here, which is the one that I'm talking about. I'll conclude the video, if I remember, kind of pointing out these two properties because we have a corner of the river through here. I'll just do a drive-by. So give me 1 second. I'm going to trudge down this easement. You can see along the fence line, I'm assuming is where it is, down to the corner there, and we'll have a look. Okay, I'm actually here on the northwest corner. I've walked along the fence, kind of along that easement, over a waterway, which is probably a portion of Henderson Creek coming out of the canyon there. This is Henderson Canyon. Up here we do have some excellent panoramic views, but one thing I'll point out is unless there's a wetland delineation completed, and here you've got an excellent Teton view. Unless there's a wetland delineation completed, the county's mapping system does show everything I've walked on, including all of the property, in a wetland overlay. What that means is a wetland delineation would likely be required if it hasn't been completed. And keep in mind that the property we just walked over was an easement on somebody else's property. So it may be that a wetland delineation would be required on that property, just on the easement portion. I'm not sure. And likely a 404 fill permit to get over the ditch if, in fact, they find that is wet. And I will say I did notice some standing water as we went. So if you look at the property, you can actually see this western portion of the property is the high point. I think that's relatively obvious here. Again, it would be an excellent place to build. You've got a great Teton view. I'm a little zoomed out here, so you can't really get the full scope of that. You've got a neighbor here, but it's not as if you're going to see the Teton River from your front door. Perhaps if you're elevated, you may, but I'm going to keep kind of walking towards the river to kind of show you what that looks like on the property, and we'll get back online. Okay, I am more or less in the center of the property, if anything, a little north. See, I've stirred up some ducks here. So here's the river. I mean, you can see it said it's narrow state. Do I think that it's a fishery? Most certainly. The river does get wider as we continue north. Hop over this buck rail fence here. It was an easy walk here in January. Potentially could be a little boggy earlier in the season or in the summer. But a nice, easy, meandering section. Again, for fishing, quite possibly you can see it's been fenced on both sides. As a home site, I would say basically, in my opinion, almost impossible. Although I really don't know the regulations. I would say that the Army Corps, the county, you can see how much brush I've walked through. It wasn't as if I was kind of breaking through twigs. I was probably along some old game trails and waterways. But again, this is something that you're probably never going to see from the home site, but certainly an attribute that you have next door. Gives you some elbow room, your own access up to the Teton River, whatever and however that looks like. There is a little bridge here, so that bridge I pointed out in the first of the video where the car just drove by. From a practical standpoint, floating under that with a boat, I don't know if that's really practical or possible. The other properties in that home is over here in the distance, but the road basically comes around, and I'll kind of go drive this as the last portion of the video. And there are two other parcels offered by the same seller. I'll be right back with you. I'm going to make the walk back to the car. As I walk back, you can kind of see what I came through, kind of hopping these little waterways. This is a little deeper than I expected. and it begins to open up in the distance there, which is the high ground. I'll give you one more screenshot as we continue to walk that way. Walking along these water channels, and you can see that high ground to the west where I started the video. So we're going to go back up through the fence and then along that easement out, and we'll talk to you in the car. Tons of wildlife here as we get closer to the river. I am almost back to that property corner where we started. Just as an aside, I'm always happy to do this for customers and clients before they make a trip out to see a property like this. Very familiar with the county requirements, not that I make the rules, but I can certainly point you in the right direction. So keep that in mind for this type of unique property. As soon as we turn the corner back to where we were, we're almost back to that northwest corner. We'll be back in the car. Just crossing the fence here. As I walk back, one thing I don't believe I mentioned on the way out, this easement, approximately 650 feet. I believe it's a 60-foot wide easement. That's absolutely massive. That's like county road specification. So width should not be a problem. But again, the wetland aspect, the Army Corps, other requirements. Okay, from here I'll be in the car. So we're back in the car. We just walked across this and down to about here. I'm going to take you around the corner and show you these two properties that are available. This is just a collective price for those two. You can see this corner barely gets down to the river as well. I don't particularly like the orientation as much. I feel like this one, although it's going to create some work, it's got a eastern view to the Tetons. You can come in, have your garage on the west side, looking across to the Tetons with the Teton River in the distance. This is that bridge, and there's the river where we just were. In fact, we were looking down that. We could almost see the bridge there, but we did not. The property does have an adjacent property listed. It was at 2.5 or 6 million, as I recall. That's this corner right here, and it does go border the river as well. Same problems. I don't think you're going to get really close to the river in this day and age. We do have riparian buffers that are approximately 100 feet. That's been expanded from years past, as I recall, and just with current regulations. But obviously, there's a major benefit to being on a property with the Teton River, some of the most coveted property in the Teton Valley. So as we get up to this next corner, that house that we were looking at, this is actually where, sorry, holding my phone weird here. This is actually where we saw that house, where they access. So you can see it in the distance there. This west 6,000 south is the northern boundary of the property. So they go that way. And there are two of them. You can see the fence that separates them. And then the corner of those two properties that touches the river is going to be down here. So again, I'm not going to get into too much detail there. I'm covered in bog water now. Tayson Rockefeller, 208-709-1333. Tayson at TetonValleyRealty.com. Thanks for watching.